Morning everybody, welcome back to the UptaCraft shop. We're here on day 2. So what we've done here, I've actually made a little bit of progress that I did not get footage of. I'm just going to briefly describe to you what I've done. Let's take a look at what we got here. What I've got here is 4 legs, and I have cut them long. I'll trim them to final length later. But the intent here is to have these 2 pieces of wood serve as a stretcher underneath the 2 pieces of the tabletop. So these will go perpendicular to the slabs and will be oriented in a upright or vertical orientation. So these are roughly about a 2 1/4 wide by 3 inch tall profile, and the legs are of a similar dimension in their cross section. And what I intend to do is to have these stretchers looking kind of, I'm going to orient this looking from the underside of the table, and have the legs fit just like so. I've got them running short here in relation to the top of the stretcher because my intent is to have this stretcher be recessed 1 inch into the thickness of the tabletop as a means of locking it all together. So this will actually set into a 1 inch deep dado on the underside of the tabletop slabs, and then of course will be glued and mechanically fastened together. You might be asking yourself about what I'm calling a bird's mouth cut up here. How did I arrive at the dimensions, as well as the fact that there is an angle. These are not square in relation to the sides of the board, but they have been set at an angle. This interior angle is square, but the overall cut is set at what I laid out to be a 7-degree angle. This will give the legs a gentle outward splay, again providing some rigidity. And so when I establish the final length of these legs, I will cut these at a 7-degree angle so that the bottom of the leg will lay flat on the floor even though the leg is angled outward at 7 degrees. And there's one other piece that I have cut while I have not finished the final shaping of it. I'll show it to you here. This piece is going to be a stretcher along the long axis of the table with a gentle arch. The reason behind this, in fact I might even reduce the dimensions of it to make it a bit more delicate looking without losing the beef. This is a prototype design, so stick with me as we develop it, refine it, and arrive at the final results. Okay, so here we have the legs that have been now calculated and cut to length, and you'll notice at the bottom here a 7-degree angled cut that will allow these to sit flat on the floor. What I've also done here, as you can see, I think you can see this all right. Yeah, you see the number 2 there? What I've done is I've numbered these legs just to allow for any minor irregularities that might be going on between the legs. They're pretty uniform, but for the sake of nice tight scribing, I numbered them. Now on these stretchers, I have laid out the dado cuts on both sides and numbered the dados. So they'll correspond to the numbered legs. I used a square and the material itself to scribe the width of these dados. So we'll cut them out using the dado setup on the radial arm saw and then let you know how it turns out. Okay, so we're here on the radial arm saw table, and again you can see where I have numbered my dado cuts, and I'm ready to set the saw up. So right now the saw was set up at the thickness of the board. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this blade down about a 1/4 inch, nothing major, just so that we can have a channel that these legs will sit into nice and solidly. So on the radial arm saw, there is a hand crank on the front of the blade of the table that allows you to set the elevation. So I'm just going to crank this down, and by eye I'm just going to go to that ought to be more than sufficient. Just basically the height of the teeth on the blade. see some daylight there. Okay, so we'll make a few passes and hog out the material, just finishing up with a little chisel. Okay, so what you can see here is that I datoed not only the side face of the stretcher, but also the underside of the stretcher to allow the bird's mouth of my legs to fit right in there and have a really nice tight joint. And just a little bit of extra lateral support from the legs over time wanting to wiggle or come loose at all. Anyways, let's see how they fit. Okay, so here we have notch number 2 and leg number 2. Let's see how they go together. Okay. Very nice. Nice tight looking joint all around. Yeah. That's going to be real nice once it's glued and mechanically fastened. Okay, so my legs are all cut out. And if you'll notice, I've made one more alteration to the design of my legs. I got thinking that they were too boxy and bulky looking. So if you'll notice, I have cut, using my bandsaw, a gentle curve on the inside profile of the leg. I believe this will result in a much more pleasing overall look and will again mirror kind of a, you see how it's a very gentle curve. The arched longitudinal stretcher, I said, was borrowed from kind of a Japanese style of woodworking. This same gentle curve on the inside of my legs is intended to continue to carry that design element through.